Chances are you've seen someone with heterochromia before. One blue eye or one brown eye, maybe sometimes it's green and blue, or some other kind of striking combination. Most people look at it and think, whoa, that's really cool. Because it is. But I think there's a much more interesting question hiding underneath that. Because the remarkable part isn't that some people have two different colored eyes. The remarkable part is that billions of developmental decisions usually produce two eyes that match at all. And if that sounds ridiculous, think about it for a second. Most people in the world are not perfectly symmetrical. One eye usually sits a little higher than the other, or a nostril is slightly larger. In my case, one of my ears is higher. If I put on a pair of glasses without having them adjusted, they sit crooked on me. So those asymmetries are everywhere. Heterochromia is what happens when one of those developmental differences becomes impossible to miss. Most asymmetries are subtle. They're usually about placement. Heterochromia isn't. You can spot it across the room because of the difference in color, and it's usually very obvious. Where does eye color come from in the first place? It comes from pigment, or melanin. The more pigment that accumulates in the iris, the darker the eye appears. If one eye ended up darker than the other, something caused the two eyes to accumulate different amounts of pigment. You probably remember from biology class in high school that we develop as two sides, and those cells meet right down the middle here, right? Do you remember this part? And because of that, your body isn't building a matching set of eyes. It's building a left eye and a right eye at the same time. But development isn't perfectly repeatable. I often think of it as like a sliding doors kind of moment or a multiverse kind of situation. Your eyes start from almost the exact same place, same biology, same parents, same DNA. But tiny differences in decisions and the way the cells communicate over time accumulate as the story unfolds. Most of the time, the endings are nearly identical, but sometimes they aren't. As they are forming, cells are moving, communicating, responding to signals, producing pigment, and most of the time, the two eyes end up with almost the exactly same amount of melanin, but sometimes they don't. And when that difference becomes large enough, one eye ends up darker than the other, and that's how you get heterochromia. I absolutely find heterochromia fascinating, not only because it's beautiful and striking, but the thing is, it's not just an eye color phenomenon. It's one of the clearest windows that we have into how human bodies actually develop. What we've been talking about is really the simplest version of heterochromia. There's multiple versions. One eye is developing differently from the other, but sometimes the difference isn't between the eyes. Sometimes it's inside a single eye, which raises an even more interesting question. If development can take two different paths between your left eye and your right eye, what happens when it takes two different paths inside the same eye? That's where things start to get really interesting, and I'll cover that in my next video.